So today's lesson I told you was going to be all about multi-step math problems, multi-step word problems. Well, luckily you guys have really already been doing this, like the whole time. Those problems in the homework, in the independent practice, where like sometimes you have to add some things before you subtract, or you may have to add things multiple times, or you may need to subtract things multiple times. That's what we're going to be working with today, is multi-step word problems. But we need to practice something first. Say that I have this problem. 57 plus what equals 123. And I have to figure out what is that unknown, that question mark. How would I solve this? Who thinks they know? How would you solve this? How would you figure out 57 plus what equals 123? Victoria.
I would add something to 57.
Well, how would you know what to do? Are you just going to test random numbers until you find the right one? How are you going to figure out what you have to add to 57 to get 123? You're not just going to guess random numbers until it works. Like, okay, well, let's try 50. That didn't work. Let's try 52. That didn't work. Let's try 86. How would you figure out the quickest way exactly what number this question mark represents? Smith.
You do 123 minus 57.
123 minus 57. It's almost like when we check with addition. Well, wait, let's go back. So Smith, let's solve this. So we start with what place?
The ones place.
Can we take 7 ones away from 3?
No.
No, so what do we have to do?
Go over to the hundred or to the tens place.
Good, and what do we check for in the tens place?
A number to regroup.
Good. Do we have something to regroup in the tens place, Smith? Ethan,
Yes.
Don't worry about your book. Just pay attention up here. Yes. So we have 2 tens. If we take 1 10, how many do we end up with?
10 ones.
Well, we took 1 10. So how many? We have to figure out how many tens we have left first.
Oh, 110.
We have 1 10 left. Now, that 1 10 that we took, does it just disappear?
No.
No. What do we regroup it as? How many of what?
10 ones.
Good. So we started with 3 ones. We're adding 10 more. How many ones do we have now?
13 ones.
13. Now, if we have 13 ones, can we take 7 away?
Yes.
Because 13 minus 7 is
6.
6. Correct. Step 2. That was a lot of steps just to get to step 2. But sometimes we have to do even more when we have zeros. But now, step 2.
Subtract the tens.
We have 1 10. Can we take 5 away?
No.
No. So what do we have to do?
Go over to the hundreds place.
Okay. And we check for what?
A number to regroup.
Do we have anything to regroup?
Yes.
Yes, we have 100. How many do I need to take?
1.
And how many will I have left over?
0.
And what do I do with that 100? I regroup it as how many of what?
10 tens.
10 tens. I had 1 10. I'm adding 10 more. How many tens do I have now?
11.
11. Now I have 11 tens. Can I take 5 away from 11 tens?
Yes.
Yes. 11 minus 5 is
6.
6. So that means our question mark probably equals 66. But should we just say, okay, it equals 66? We're done.
No.
No, what should we do, Smith?
We should use addition to check.
Good. We should check it with addition. So let's see. We have 57 plus 66. Well, Smith, we start in what place?
The ones place.
7 plus 6 is
13.
13. We regroup the 1 to the tens place. Step 2 is to
Add the
We
tens.
start with what we knew. 5 plus 6 is,
11.
plus 1 is,
12.
did we get our answer?
Yes.
Yes. So the reason I did this was because in some of the problems that we're going to do today, in the end, we're going to end up with something that looks like this. 57 plus a number or plus an unknown equals a number. Or I'm sorry, a number plus an unknown equals a number. And we have to figure out the quickest way to figure out what that unknown is. Well, the quickest way is not to just guess and then eventually get the right number. The quickest way is to subtract. Now, sometimes we might have to add or something like that. But we'll see what happens as we go. Go ahead and read the sentences under the title. Cullen.
You can write any equation.
Not any equation. What is that? There's no y at the end. So it's not any.
You can write an equation to help organize and solve multi-step problems. An equation is a sentence that continues.
No. Remember, AI almost always sounds like a.
Contains an equal sign. Shows that
Not
both
shows, but
showing that both sides of the equals signs are equal.
good. So underline that definition. An equation is a sentence that contains an equal sign showing that both sides of the equal sign are equal. Both sides of the equal sign are equal. Another word for this that you've probably been using since like first grade or even kindergarten is number sentence. Make sure you're writing whatever I'm writing. Zari, please tilt your camera down so that I can see you and what you're working on. And an example of an equation / number sentence is 2 plus 2 equals 4. This equal sign shows that both sides are equal because if I add 2 plus 2, what do I get? Class, what do I get?
4.
4. Then if I bring down what's left, is this true? Does 4 equal 4?
Yes.
Yes. So that's an equation. An equation is a sentence, a number sentence, that contains an equal sign that shows that both sides of the equal sign are equal. And that's what we're going to be working on today. But most of our equations that we create, that we write, are going to have more than one symbol, more than one operation symbol. Sometimes that means it might have a bunch of addition signs. Sometimes that means it might have a bunch of minus signs. It could have addition and minus signs in one number sentence. So let's look at what that looks like in example 1. Okay, so finger or pencil on example 1. When I see everybody's finger or pencil on example 1, we will continue. Okay, please read in your head while I read out loud. Remember, we're going to read once to find the question, then we'll reread to find the pieces of the equation. The music club had $390 in their account. At the concert, they earned $472. Afterward, they had to pay $75 to rent the stage and $102 for the rental equipment. How much is in their account now? So make sure that you are paying attention. This is where that underlining and boxing and figuring out all this stuff is going to come. It's going to be very important. So we know the question is, how much is in their account now? Now, this is a multi-step problem. We know that because we have like a bunch of numbers. So our question is not necessarily going to tell us what operation to use. All we know is that we're trying to figure out how much is in their account. Well, how much what? It doesn't actually say the unit in the question, but we know based on the problem, what is our unit going to be? How much what? Zari?
Money.
Money. How much? So we can imagine that right here it says money, which is the unit. So now we know, as we reread this problem, we're looking for everything that tells us money. Since this is going to be a multi-step problem, we also need to look for some other words. We need to look for words that are going to tell us, okay, did they get this money? Did they end up with more money after this event? Or did they end up with less money at the end of this event? When we have multi-step problems, again, the operation may not be in the sentence, in the question. Because in how much is in their account now? Does that say anything like in all or all together or how much more or how much less? No. So in this case, our question does not tell us the operation. Please make sure you're paying attention. If you're paying attention, this lesson will be a breeze. If you're ready to think and ready to listen and ready to read closely, this lesson will be a breeze and it'll actually be really fun because it's like a puzzle. But if you're just not focusing at all and your brain is off in space, you're going to have no idea where we are. So make sure that you are focusing, listening, ready to read closely. Okay, so again, our question doesn't tell us what operation to do because we might have to do more than one. So as we're rereading, we need to look for words that tell us, did they gain this money? That means, are they getting more? Is their amount of money going up? Or did they lose or spend this money? Which means their amount of money is going down. Because if their amount of money is going up, what operation are we probably going to be doing? Class?
Addition.
Addition. If their amount of money is going down, they're using it, losing it, spending it, whatever. What operation are we probably going to have to do?
Subtract.
Subtracting. So let's read it again. Now this is where please do not try to box in advance because you're learning how to do this. You're learning what to look for. The music club had $390 in their account. Well, we know $390 is going to be important because money is our unit. 390 represents dollars. But now, because this is multi-step, we need to figure out what word tells us what to do with this number. The word had tells us what to do. Because they had $390, we know that's where we're going to start. We're going to start at 390. If it says has, had, or have, that almost always means that's where you're starting. You're not adding or subtracting that number because that's already there. It's there. We are going to change that number, either by adding or subtracting or both. So does everybody understand what had, have, or has means? What does it mean? Colin.
They had that money.
So what does that mean about that number?
It's not the money it's not the number they actually had.
Zari? If they had it, what does it mean about that number?
They first had that number, but then they either spent it or lost.
So what does
the
it
money.
mean about the number 390? You guys are just telling me what the problem says. I want to know,
That
what
was
does they
subtracted.
had it mean? I said it. Victoria?
Using it to subtract.
Not necessarily. I'm going to say it again. Remember what I said about paying attention. That means 390 is where we start. If they had, if someone has, if people have money. If you see had, have, has, that means that's the number you start with. So when we're writing our equation, whatever they had is the first number in our equation. If we see had a number, have a number or has a number? We know that's where we start. We're not adding it, we're not subtracting it, we're starting there. Please make sure that you are doing what I'm doing. I just wrote over top, so you should be tracing over top. Please don't make me wait for you. You can do it as we go. We've been doing this the whole time where we trace over these numbers so that we have that muscle memory. Now, I figured out what to do with $390, so I can move on. The next sentence says, at the concert, they earned $472. Well, we see a dollar sign, so that means that's our next number. But we have to figure out what word tells us what happened with that money. Did they get it, or did they have to spend it? Is it coming in to their bank account, which means they're adding it, or is it going out of their bank account, which means they're spending it, they're subtracting it? Well, the word earned tells us what happened. So earned $472 tells us what to do with it. If you earn money, do you end up with more or do you end up with less? Carla?
More.
More. So that means our next number, 472, means we're doing what with that number, Carla? If they're getting more, what are we doing with the number 472?
Whenever you see earn, it means you're adding.
I'm going to add, because if I earn money, that means I get more. I'm not spending it, it's not being lost, it's not being used. I'm getting more, which means the amount of money that I started with is getting bigger. What operation out of addition and subtraction means your answer gets bigger? Class? Addition.
Addition.
Now let's go to the next sentence. Afterwards, they had to pay $75 to rent the stage. We have an and, so let's pause. So we know our next important piece of information is $75 because it has our unit, which is money. We have to figure out what word tells us what to do with it. Do we have to add it? Are they gaining that money? Are they getting more? Or do we have to subtract it? Are they having to use it? Are they losing money? Well, in this case, the word pay tells us what to do with that $75. If you pay for something, do you end up with more money or do you end up with less money? Does your total amount of money when you pay for something, if you have money in your wallet and you pay for something, what happens to that total amount of money? Aaron?
It gets subtracted.
It goes down. So what do we have to do if we pay $75? What operation do we have to do with $75, Aaron?
Subtraction.
Subtraction. Very good. Now let's read the rest of that sentence. And $102 for the rental equipment. Well, we see $102, but do we see a word like paid or earned or whatever right before? No. But where is the word that tells us what they did with that $102? Where is the word that tells us what they did with that $102? Victoria.
Do you want me to tell the word or just show you?
Tell me the word and tell us where it is.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
Well, listen to this sentence. Afterwards, they had to pay $75 to rent the stage and $102 for the rental equipment. Pay tells us they paid $75 for the stage and $102. So did they pay the $102 or did they earn the $102? Cullen?
They paid.
They paid it. So pay works for $75 and $102. So our next number is 102. If they paid that, are they adding to their total amount of money or are they subtracting? Class?
Subtracting.
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 Now, the rest of the problem is just the question. How much is in their account now? So do we have any more important information to add to our equation? No, there is no more information, which means we're trying to find the answer. Now, sometimes the unknown may not be the answer, but in this case, it is. We know that our answer is the unknown because it says how much is in their account now. It doesn't tell us how much is in their account now. It's asking us how much is in their account now. So we've written the equation. We had our starting amount. Make sure you're paying attention, please. Go back through this. We've written our equation. We have our starting amount, $390. We add 472 because that's what they earned at the concert. If you earn money, you end up with more, so we're adding. They paid for the stage for $75. If you pay for something, that means you're subtracting from your total amount of money. And then they paid for the equipment. Again, if you're paying for something, you're subtracting from your total amount of money. Now we're trying to figure out the final amount. Remember, the part of a problem that we don't know is the unknown. Even if it's the answer, it's unknown. Do we know the answer yet? No. So now, read the sentence underneath our equation. Aaron, read the sentence underneath our equation, loudly and slowly.
When more than one step is unsolved.
Not unsolved,
Insolved.
not insolved.
Involved.
So start again.
When more than one step is involved, add and subtract in order from left to right.
Good. When there is more than one step involved, we're going to add and subtract from left to right. So we're going to start on the left and do the addition or subtraction in order. So that means our first problem is $390 plus $472. So that means I'm going to set it up. I have $390 plus $472. Well, class, what place do I start in when I add?
Ones.
One.
The ones place. Class, 0 plus 2 is?
2.
2.
Step 2, I add the?
10.
9 plus 7 is?
16.
16.
Okay, you guys are just trying to be the first one. 9, make sure you're correct. First one, that's why they say first is the worst, because usually you're just rushing to be the first, and then all your answers are wrong. So, if you're taking time and you're the first, that's okay. But when the first person is finished in like 10 minutes, well, that means they just rushed. 9 plus 7 is 16. But we have to regroup the 1 to the what place? Hundreds. We're going to start with what we had. I'm sorry, step 3. Add the?
Hundreds.
We have 3 plus 4, which equals?
7.
3 plus 4 equals?
7.
Plus 1 equals?
8.
Bring down our dollar sign. So let's label this. Money after concert. So now that's how much they have. They earned all that money. That's how much they have. But is that our final answer? Is that the unknown?
No.
No, it's only the answer to the first part. So now what we have to do is we solve 390 plus 472, which equals 862. But now we have to subtract $75 from that. So let's write 862. Ooh, let me make sure to line it up. So since I already have my second number, I'm going to start with my first number. I'm going to line up the 2 with the ones place, the 6 with the tens place, and then the 8 I can just put there because there is no hundreds place. Now, we have 390 plus 472 is 862. Now we have to subtract $75. Does everybody see why after we add these two numbers, now we have to subtract 75? We're not doing 472 minus 75 because we've already used this 472. So draw these arrows to show you've already used it. Now we're using this number. So now we have to subtract. Kingston, I start in what place when I subtract? The ones. I have 2 ones. Can I take 5 ones away? No. So I have to move to what place? And try to do what? See if I have something to... What word? Aaron? Regroup. I have a 6. Do I have something to regroup, Kingston? Yes. How many 10s am I going to take away? So how many will I have left? I took 1. I had 6 10s. I took 1 away. How many 10s do I have left? 5. What do I do with that 10? I regroup it as how many of what? How many ones? 10 ones. I started with 2. I add 10 more. How many ones do I have now? 12. Kingston, 12 minus 5. Can I do that? What is the answer? 7. Now step 2. What do I do, Kingston? I can't hear you. You didn't get any louder. I have 5 10s. Can I take 7 away? No. So I have to go to what place? And I have to try to... what's that word that tells me what I'm about to do? Regroup. Do I have something to regroup? Yes. I have 800ths. How many am I going to take? 1. So I end up with how many? You need to fix the attitude, otherwise you're just going to do this during recess. Sit up. And you need to be ready to do school. I had 800ths. I took 1. How many hundredths do I have left? 7. I turn that 100 into how many of what? I had 5. I'm adding 10 more 10s. So how many 10s do I have now? 15. Now, can I do 15 minus 7? What is the answer? Eight. Step 3. Subtract the hundredths. I have 7 hundredths. Can I take away none? How many hundredths do I end up with if I have 7 and I take away none? 7. And then I bring down my dollar sign. So, this answer tells us the money after paying for the stage. Try to write small so that you can see your answer when we get there. So now we know how much they have after they paid for the stage. They have $787. Well, we've used $390, we've used $472, and we've used $75. So the only thing we have left is subtracting 102. So we take that new amount after paying for the stage, which is $787. I made sure I lined it up. And we know we're subtracting. So now, Victoria, I'm subtracting. Where do I start? 7 minus 2, can we do that? How many? If we have 7 and we take away 2 ones, how many do we have left? 5. Step 2. What do I do in the tens place? Subtract. I have 8 tens. Can I take away 0? 8 minus 0 is? Step 3. I have 7 hundredths. Can I take away 1? 7 minus 1 is? Bring down the dollar sign. Let's see, do I have anything else in my problem to use? No, I finished. So that means the unknown is this last number. So this is the money after paying for equipment, which was the last thing that happened in our problem, was that they paid for the equipment. So how much does the account have left? Their account now has how much money? Zari.
Their account now has 685
685 what?
dollars.
Dollars. Bless you. Good. Very good. So now they checked using estimation. They rounded $390 to $400. They rounded $472 to $500, and we keep the same exact symbols. They rounded 75 to $100, because when we're adding with estimation or subtracting with estimation, can we round to different places in the numbers? No. So even though 75 doesn't have a hundredths place, they rounded it to the hundredths, because we can imagine that invisible 0 in the hundredths place. So if we circle the digit in the hundredths place and underline the digit to the right, the underlined digit is 5 or more, which means we add 1 to the circle digit. 0 plus 1 is 1. The rest of the digits become zeros. So 75 rounded to the nearest hundred is 100, because we have to imagine that invisible 0. And then $102 also rounds to 100, bless you. And now we can solve this mentally, because how many zeros are at the end of each part of my problem? How many zeros are at the end of each part of my estimated problem? Aaron?
3.
Are there 3 zeros at the end of each one?
2.
2. So how many how many zeros are going to be at the end of my answer?
2.
2. Now we just need to add what's left. 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 1. Well, what's 4 plus 5? Aaron?
9.
9 plus 1
10.
plus 1.
11.
So we just put 11 in front, add our dollar sign, find our commas. 1, 2, 3. Oh, whoops, because I did the wrong thing. Sorry. Aaron, let's try again. We know we are going to have 2 zeros at the end. But 4 plus 5
9.
minus 1
8.
minus 1.
6. 7.
Is that pretty close to our actual answer?
Yes.
So this is close to the actual amount, which is $685. So the answer is reasonable. Very good. So multi-step problems is just about reading. Some of you, like you guys are great readers, you just see those numbers and you let it terrify you and shut you down. But all it is reading and figuring out, okay, does that word mean I add more to my total? Or does the word tell me I need to take away from my total? Is everybody with me so far? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to example 2. Helper number 2, please sanitize, erase, sanitize. Okay. Read these sentences at the top of the page, Smith. Or this sentence, it's only one.
A variable is a symbol, often a letter, that is used to represent an unknown or a number that is not known.
Good. So, underline that. A variable is a symbol, often a letter, that is used to represent an unknown. So this whole time we've been talking about unknowns. Variable is nothing new. You've been doing unknown since like first grade. Wherever you have that little box, that's an unknown. Variable is just the math term for it. That's all it is. So don't be scared because it's a new word, because you've already been using it for like 4 years. Yeah. It's just variable is the math term for an unknown. Please make sure that you're paying attention. Variable is the math term for an unknown. We've been seeing it as these little gray boxes for years. But usually when you get to like bigger math, it's a letter. Now in this lesson, I'm going to let you have a little bit of fun with that because I'm going to let you choose what you want your variable to be once you get to your independent work. That means if you want to draw a little tiny picture, you can for your variable. Just make sure that it's not taking you the whole lesson to draw your variables and then not to do math. Like, don't put so much detail. Like, if you want to do a heart for your unknown, go right ahead. If you want to do, for your variable, I mean. If you want to do a smiley face for your variable, go ahead. If you want to do something different every time for your variable, go ahead. Because after this lesson, the next multi-step ones where we have variables, you'll have to start using letters. But you can have a little fun with this one. Just make sure you're not spending all your time on your symbols and none on your actual work. Okay, let's move on. We'll talk more about that later when you get to the independent word. So everybody, finger or pencil on example 2. And read in your head while I read out loud. Remember, we're going to read it once to find the question. Then we're going to go back and find the important pieces of the problem. 20 people got on the bus at the first stop. At the second stop, 14 people got off the bus. And 5 people got on the bus. At the third stop, 2 people got off the bus and some people got on the bus. Then there were 24 people on the bus. How many people got on the bus at the third stop? So let's underline our question. How many people got on the bus at the third stop? Does this question have any word that tells us an operation that we're using? Does it say how many more, how many less, how much more, how much less, how many in all, how many altogether? Victoria? No. So where does that mean we have to look to get our operation symbols? We have to look not near the words, but near the numbers. But in order to know what numbers we're looking for, what do we need to know first? Carla?
We need to know the unit.
Excellent. We need to know the unit. Remember, when you're trying to find the unit, look after the words how many, how much more, how much less. That is almost always going to have our unit. So the word people comes after how many. So that means people is our unit. So now we know the numbers that we're looking for. We're looking for numbers that represent people. If it says the number of seats, is that going to be an important piece of the problem? The number of seats. Why? Colin? Are we looking for the number of seats?
No.
We're looking for the numbers of what?
People.
How do we know that?
Because we look after how many
So the question is asking us about what?
How many people?
It's asking us about people. So do we need to know seats?
No.
No, not necessarily. So let's go back through and find all the numbers that represent people. Remember, our question doesn't have the operation in it. So we're also looking for words that tell us what to do. Are we adding or subtracting that number? If you have a bus and people get on the bus, what are you doing with that number? Adding. If you have a bus and you're trying to figure out how many people are on it, well, when they get on, that means more people. So is the number of people on the bus going up or going down? If people get on a bus, is the number of people on a bus going up or going down? Class.
going up.
So that means we are
Adding.
adding. If people get off a bus, is the number of people on the bus going up or going down? So that means we are
Subtracting.
subtracting. So, now we know. We're probably looking for words like got on or got off. So, let's read the question again. Let's find the numbers. 20 people got on the bus at the first stop. I don't see a number there. What's our number? Carla?
20.
20. How do we know? I don't see any digits.
You will not see the digit, but by people, there's a number and word.
Good. We have our number in word form. Just because it's in word form, does that mean we don't need it? No. So our first important piece of information is 20 people. What did they do, Carla? Did they get on or get off?
They got on the bus.
They got on. So 20 people got on. That means we come down here and we write our number 20 on our equation. But are we adding or subtracting 20 or are we just starting with 20, Carla?
Starting.
We're starting. Technically, we're adding because how many people did the bus have on it before the first stop? Before the first stop in the morning, it just left the bus station. How many people are going to be on that bus? How many passengers? Not including the bus driver. Aaron? There's just going to be 20 starting out. The bus driver just left the bus station. He just picked up the bus to go to work.
0.
0. So technically we're starting with 0. But do we have to add this at the beginning of a problem?
No.
No. It's just like putting 0. We already know that 0 plus 20 is going to be 20. Because of which property? Victoria? Nope. Kingston? Identity. 0 plus any number equals that number. So we don't have to put 0 plus 20 because we already know if they started with 0 before they got to the first stop and added 20, it's going to be 20. Okay, next sentence. At the second stop, 14 people got off the bus. So we have an important piece of information. We see our unit, people, 14 of them, and they got off. That means our next number is 14. Since they got off, that means we have less people on the bus, which means we subtract it. Then the sentence continues, and 5 people got on the bus. Well, again, we see our unit right after the word 5, and we see that they got on, which means the number of people on the bus went up. So we add 5 people. At the third stop, 2 people got off the bus. Well, we see our unit, people. We see that it represents 2 of them. And they got off. So that means we have to subtract the 2 people that got off. And then the rest of the sentence says, and some people got on the bus. Do we know how many people got on the bus at that stop yet? No, we don't. So what's our unknown? The number of people that, our unknown is the number of people
that got on the bus.
at which stop?
Third stop.
At the third stop. Now they tell us to use the letter B to use, but Zari, since you told me that, what symbol would you like to use? Make it something easy to draw, easy and quick.
Heart.
A heart. And since they got on, so our next important piece of information is some people got on. We don't know how many some is, so we used our variable, which Zari chose a heart. And since they got on, are we adding or subtracting whatever that number is, Zari?
Adding.
Adding, good. And then it says, then there were 24 people on the bus. Are we adding or subtracting 24? Colin?
We're subtracting.
Did we have anything that tells us that we're adding or subtracting? Does it say 24 people got on, 24 people got off?
No.
No. So what does that mean? Are we trying to find how many people there were on the bus in the end?
No.
No, because why? Why are we not trying to find out how many people there were at the end? Victoria?
Because 24 is this. Can I say some?
Not some, but the
Is the answer.
good. Because we're not trying to find the number of people that there were at the end. We already know how many there were in the end. We already know the final amount. So that means whatever our problem is, it's going to equal 24. All of these together, whether we're adding, subtracting, whatever, are going to equal 24 in the end. Because we're not trying to find out the final amount. We are trying to find out how many got on at the third stop. So, when you're reading these problems, when you're doing them on your own, you have to figure out, do you know the final amount? Like in example A, or is the example 1 where the final amount was the unknown? Or do they give you the final amount, which means a part of the problem is the unknown? In example 1, we knew all the pieces of the problem. We were trying to find the final amount. It said, how many do they have in their account now? In this problem, we know how many people are on the bus now. We're trying to figure out how many got on before now. So we know if it says, then there were 24 people on the bus, period. That means this is the end amount. We don't have got on, we don't have got off. That means we are finally ending with 24 people. Some people got on means, well, we're adding some people, but do we know how many people we're adding? No. So there's our variable. So make sure, if you see the unit and a word that tells you to add or subtract, but no number, that means your unknown is a part of the problem. If you don't see an end amount and the question says, how many were there at the end? Some words that mean at the end. That means your variable is the answer. But sometimes it won't be the answer. So do not make the variable the answer every time, because sometimes it's part of the problem, like right here in example 2. So now we can start to solve. Again, we know, so we wrote our equation. We started with 20 because that's how many started out. That's how many got on at the first stop. Before that, there were none. So we're starting with 20. Then we subtracted 14 because that's how many got off at the second stop. Please make sure you're paying attention. That's how many got off at the second stop. Then we add 5 because at the second stop, 5 people got on. Then we subtract 2 because at the third stop, 2 people got off. Then we're adding an unknown because it said some people got on, which means that we're adding, but we don't know the number. And in the end, there were 24 people on the bus. So we're trying to find out how many people got on at the third stop. So let's start solving. Step 1, we solve it in order from left to right. So we start with 20 minus 14. Zari, what is 20 minus 14? You can just count backwards. We don't even have to regroup because we know it's going to be less than 10. So 20,
19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13.
Are we going to keep going? Because we're trying to figure out how many it is between 20 and 14. So that means we're going to start at 20, stop at 14, and figure out how many stops we made on the way. So let's start again. 20,
19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14.
How many did it take us to get to 14?
6.
6. So that means 20 minus 14 is
6.
good. Now, so that means after the first stop, in the middle of the second stop, we have how many people?
6.
6. But then, in that second stop, 5 people got on. So we've already figured out 20 plus minus 14 is 6. So here's the 20. Here's the 14. Now, we're done with 20 and 14. We know it equals 6. But now we have to add 5. Kingston. 6 plus 5 is 11. So that means after the second stop, how many people are on the bus? 11. Then we have to use our next number. We have to subtract 2 because that's how many people got off at the second stop. So 11 minus 2 is what, Victoria?
11 minus 2 is
Not 8. Use your fingers if you need to. Don't try to just keep it all in your head if it's going to. 9. So, how many people are there in the middle of the second stop? 9. So we bring that up. Now we know what we have left is 9 plus heart equals 24. Well, we said earlier, okay, we had 57 plus something equals 123. To solve that, we took the part of the problem we knew and we subtracted it from the answer. So all we have to do here is subtract the part we know, which is 9, from the answer, which is 24. 24 minus 9 equals what? You can just count back. You can count back 9 and figure out what number you're on. So 24,
23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18,
15. So 24 minus 9 is 15. So how many people got on at the third stop? Victoria?
15.
B, or heart, sorry, equals 15. So 15 people got on the bus at the third stop. Does everybody understand? Sometimes the unknown is the answer, like in example 1. Sometimes the unknown is part of the problem, like in example 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the guided practice together. Now, I have created your scratch work, your scratch paper. I'm only going to do this for a couple of weeks because after a couple of weeks, you should know how to do it on your own. You're just going to do the same thing on your own piece of paper. So girls at home, get out that scratch paper that says pages 114 through 116. It is front and back